Hello and welcome back to True Faith, the Writer's Block. It's episode 24, I believe, and I'm joined by Ed and Adam for just quite a brief, quick show. We're not going to go into all the detail we normally do because, well, we've only got three people on the show tonight. But of course, we had to get a show in because we are discussing our new manager in Eddie Howe. So just before we get into that, remember, if you do want to be part of True Faith, head to @TFNUFC on Instagram and Twitter, and there's also the Facebook as well. Get in touch with us and we'll get you sorted out. So, lads, firstly, how are you? You're both okay?
Good. Very well, thanks, Dan.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to get on to our one and only topic tonight, which is Eddie Howe, our thoughts on our new manager. So, I'll start with you, Ed. Are you pleased?
Absolutely. I think, like the majority of the fan base, just feeling overwhelmingly positive about the appointment. Obviously, we all sort of knew for the last couple of days, but with Newcastle, you can never be certain. It's always that party that's thinking, is that announcement going to come through? That it's fallen through. We feel like we've been there before, and when it was finally made official and the statement came out, brilliant. And then the images seeing him at work, and already just the idea that he's a really meticulous, thorough, and quite intelligent man who knows his football, knows what he's talking about, and is just in so many ways the polar opposite to the previous manager. Someone who was set in his ways, didn't seem sort of too keen on thinking about the science of the game or the mentality of the game or ways you can develop, which is very much like, this is what I've been doing for 20 years and it's going to keep working. I'm going to keep bashing away until it, he literally said, keep bashing away until it works. And it wasn't. Now we've got someone who, by all intents and purposes, looks like he wants to learn, and he's young. He wants to learn. He wants to improve, and he wants everyone around him, everyone at the club, to improve, to get better at what they're doing, and that can only be a really good starting point. And that kind of mentality, that kind of drive, that kind of professionalism, because that's what it is. Professionalism is hopefully just going to seep through every single aspect of the club, the same way that the lethargy and the sort of laziness of the previous manager and owner seeped through every aspect of the club until it was, evident on the pitch and the players, because that was just the philosophy of the club was, we'll do what we'll ticking along. That was again another.
It was the phrase used by his predecessor, yes, in Steve Bruce, of course. I don't know. We've seen some footage today of the players doing bleep tests in training. Now, of course, got a comment here from Robbie saying the footage of his session was already a huge reason to be excited. Do you think the players will have responded well to being essentially put through their paces in a fitness test on day one?
Well, I know from first-hand experience that the bleep test is one of the most awful inventions on the planet. So, I'd imagine it was pretty brutal today. But they all seemed, from the footage, pretty chipper, pretty happy. We saw Matt Ritchie having a bit of a laugh and a joke, I think, with Jamal Lascelles at one point, and there was a bit of sort of, it seemed like the spirits were high, and it seems like the players have sort of a feeling that this is a real sort of fresh start. And it was really good to see, and the way that the way he was talking. I've watched a few of the videos on YouTube of his sort of tactical masterclass, and the one when he's mic'd up when in the Bournemouth training and the sort of summer training camp. The way he sort of talks to the players, the way he sort of demands more from the players all the time, as Ed was saying, it's fantastic to see. And I think it's probably the most excited I've felt in the past 12 years of Newcastle United, definitely. I think second mainly to when Keegan was announced coming back for the second time, but we all know how that ended. It just feels like a fantastic opportunity for the club, and I think he's someone who will talk up the potential of the club and will talk up the squad, and he won't be on the sidelines kind of slapping hands and laughing and joking with managers after we've been hammered 4-1. Like Bruce did after the Man United game. He'll just really give the squad a lift, really give the club a lift, and I'm really excited. It's just a shame that we're in the second bottom in the table at the moment. But no, I'm really excited to look forward to the Brentford game, seeing the players out there, and I think that there seems to be a real sort of buzz and energy around the squad from what we saw on the footage today.
Now, you mentioned that. We are 19th in the league, second bottom, of course, so he has got quite the task on his hands. But Ed, do you think he is capable of getting us out of the situation we are currently in?
Yeah, I mean, we all have to. There's no reason to sort of fight this wave of optimism. Optimism is only going to help, hopefully. So yeah, I do. I think most people think it can be done. It's been done before. I think once Derby County was the one team to lose their first 11 games and still made it. I think he might. That it's easy to say, but I think that thing of us being 19th and not having won, he might enjoy that challenge. Even he seems like the kind of person who wants to be set a difficult challenge and wants to find ways of solving a problem and navigating a difficult situation. So as much as we wish we were sort of comfortably mid-table and not in any imminent danger, I think Eddie Howe, from what I've seen of him, seems like the kind of person who would just absolutely relish that and see that as a task that we've certainly got a squad that's capable of climbing out of danger. Absolutely, we do. So many of our players, all of our players, are underperforming. Every single one of them. So if he says the right things and does the right things, and hopefully he'll be thinking this, if he plays his cards right, then we will be safe. We'll win enough games. So it's not impossible. It's far from it. Stranger things have happened. I'm looking forward to seeing how he really gets into that. And like Adam was saying, like, you just know that defeats are going to hurt him, and it just means so much to him. And that sort of really, that scientific side of the game. He's just an obsessive in the very best way, in the best definition of the word. So I'm excited to see what team he plays. I've never been so curious as to what the lineup's going to look like, what formation we're going to play. I have absolutely no idea, like, who's going to be in favour, who's going to play where. I've never felt this sort of clueless about how a Newcastle United team's going to line up. But I'm glad he's got 2 weeks to sort it out. I'm glad he's got some time to look at the players. And I'm very, very interested to see what he decides is the best way to move forward with this bunch, because, as we all know, they've had 2 years where we feel like they haven't really been pressed, haven't been pushed, and he's basically starting from scratch with a lot of them.
Yeah, now we've got a comment coming here from Carl, who is a member of True Faith. He says, "Evening, lads. If you can keep our head above the water come January, then a few decent signings, I think, will be fine. Obviously, these next few games, we know how important they are. We have 3 home games in Brentford, Burnley, and Norwich, which are massive. So I mean, are you targeting 9 points from those games, and then for January and see who we can bring in?"
Yeah, I think we've definitely got a target. Winning all 3 of those home games. Whether it'll happen or not is a different question. It's very difficult to notch up back-to-back victories in the Premier League, regardless of who the opposition is. But fingers crossed we can get at least 2 wins out of those 3 games. And it's a really interesting period, and that casts my minds back to last year, where I think we had Fulham, West Brom, and Leeds all within and around each other. I think we ended up getting 3 points out. No, 4. I think it was. We drew 1-1, and we got hammered off Leeds, and that was a really crucial period against the 3 newly promoted sides. And under Bruce, we were unable to really kick on during that period of time. And in and among that as well, we had the Brentford Cup game, and we all know what happened there as well. So it was a really gloomy time in the run up to Christmas. So if we can get target 3 wins, hopefully get 2, win 2 of those. And I think there's not many points looking at the league table on Saturday night. There's really not many points. I think up to about sort of from where we are up to sort of 12th, 11th. So if we can climb out of that relegation zone soon, over the next couple of weeks, will be really positive. But yeah, as Ed was saying, really interested to see the way he goes about it, and also against the top sides as well, because I think we've got sort of Arsenal in there, who questionable status as a top side at the moment, but under Bruce, obviously against those teams, he just sort of seemed to just concede a 2-0 victory and say everyone played well and it was a great result. And so it'll be interesting to see how Howe approaches the games against those kind of top teams as well over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, now, obviously the defence that we have this season has not been great. We've been leaking goals, as we all know. And Eddie Howe, to be fair, has never been renowned for his defensive capabilities, more an attacking manager. But do you think, Ed, that in this case, attack is the best form of defence?
I mean, that's the big question. Like I said, I don't know how he's going to line up and what he's going to think of the players. I said last time I was on the block how I think we were speaking about Fonseca possibly being manager at the time. And I said the idea of some of our defenders, having to play the ball around and like have the ball at the feet, it kind of fills me with terror. But it's not. Football's a much more complicated game than just defence and attack. Steve Bruce might not realise that, but there's lots. Eddie Howe seems to be like someone who's at the forefront of modern football tactics, and he'll be teaching the players not just how to pick a pass, but also how to have confidence in the ball, how to find space, how to make sure that it's not just a case of panicking whenever we've got possession. So there are some experienced heads there. So people like Fede Fernandez and Fabian Schär, who played at World Cups, at the later stages of World Cups in some massive, massive games. And they seem to have completely lost that sense of authority, that sense of assuredness. Even Jamal Lascelles, the way he sort of, when we first got relegated and he became team captain under Benitez, because he was there calling out the Sissokos and the Cisse's and the big name players and saying, these players who are more experienced, 5 years older than he was at the time, he was calling them out, which is a really brave thing to do. And and all that attitude and that sort of leadership and that strength has just been drained from him and from everyone around him. So a big part of Eddie Howe's job is going to be that mentality side of things, because that does exist within a lot of those players, and that will seep through to the rest of the squad, to your Jamal Lewis's and to Callum Wilson's and the Alan Saint-Maximin, these kind of players, that sort of much more authoritative, confident way of playing. And that means that when you do have the ball, you don't panic and you can trust your teammates around you. So, it's not just about defence and attack. I think for me, it's more about being comfortable with the ball and being comfortable dictating games and choosing how a game is going to play. So the next 10 minutes, we're going to hold the ball and we're going to slow things down. Of the next 10 minutes, we're going to stand up. Of the next 10 minutes, we're going to play down the flanks. Because every single game for the last 18 months, Newcastle United have been sitting back and saying, well, how do you want to play? You play how you want and we'll try our best to stop it, and then we'll hoof it to Maxi and hope for the best. And that's exactly how we played non-stop for 18 months. And less about defence and attack for me. It's more about being smart, using the ball, and and dictating how a game is played and not being so passive.
Yeah, and I think our very own Tim from True Faith agrees with you here. He says it's all about ball retention and shape across the pitch, and the defenders aren't as bad as Bruce has made them look, which is something I've made the point of on several occasions in the writer's block. Now, this is a set of defenders that under the previous manager, Rafa Benitez, were very defensively secure, and Titan didn't ship many goals, but all of a sudden they do, which has to come down to a difference in management and training styles. We've got another comment as well from another True Faith member in Lee Forster saying, "Now then, gentlemen, anyone for a bleep test?" I'm okay, thanks, Lee. To be honest, I'm all right. I don't fancy one, but
far too tired. Sorry, Lee.
I'm not a professional footballer. That's the difference. Do you think, of course, because there has been a lot of criticism labelled at our players, Adam, about them being unfit. So do you think that's what Eddie Howe's wanting to suss out, whether those rumours are actually true?
I think quite possibly, yeah. And there seemed to be, from the footage, the players did seem to be blowing quite a bit. And I think he said at one point, it's not criticism, it's just a different style of training. So
he did say that.
Perhaps a big hint there that the training Howe was putting in, the demands he was putting on the players were perhaps slightly different. I can't see him as a man for sort of many days off. I can't see him as a man who will pop off to Portugal during an international break. I think we'll probably be in the training ground working with the players, and as I've said earlier on, demanding things from them all the time. And that footage when Bournemouth are out in La Manga, things he's saying to the players, come on. He's saying, speed into that gap. And I think he was saying as well today that this is when you need to sprint, lads. This is when you need to sprint. He's demanding more from the players there. So I think, really excited to see if we can, move the ball quicker, if we can close people down quicker, as Ed was saying, if we can force teams out of their shape and force teams to sort of think of a plan B against us rather than just giving them the ball, starting with Brentford. Brentford coming, through a spell of a bit of form, having started quite well, coming up to St James's Park as well. Ideal opportunity just to get them under pressure really early in the game and get at them. So yeah, hopefully fitness is being targeted by Howe, and hopefully we can, because of that, start to hurry teams a bit more and put a lot more teams under pressure.
I think that the difference is that we need to start dictating games more, and rather than being dictated to, which is what you mentioned, Ed. Like, we've been far too passive in games for so long now. And you mentioned, of course, Brentford there, Adam, as well, and our very own Lee Forster has said, what would your first line look like against Brentford? What would your reaction be if it was the same line that started? And he meant Brighton there. So if Eddie Howe was to name the same 11 that started against Brighton, which I don't think he will, personally, firstly, what would your reaction be to that? I'll ask both of you this. And then, what do you actually think it might look like? I know, Ed, you said you haven't got a clue, but we'll ask you anyway.
Well, no, the thing that frustrated me most with the recent lineups and with the setup this season and for the recent months has been that we have not been playing our best players in their best positions.
Yes.
And so Miguel Almiron, Alan Saint-Maximin, even you could say Matt Ritchie isn't playing his best position. Ryan Fraser certainly isn't. These are our danger men. These are players who can win us games, and they're all playing out of position. They all look a bit lost. So I would like to think that Eddie Howe can see that, if we're going to play well, if we're going to attack games, if we're going to, dominate games, we need our best players to play in their positions so they can fulfill their potential, so they can be confident. So I would want a situation that Maxi's on the left and, Almiron's in behind the striker or on the right. So immediately you're looking at wingers, and as soon as you've got wingers like that, I want to play four at the back. I don't want to play wing backs. I think we haven't got anyone who's a true, well, maybe Manquillo and Lewis, but Lewis is untested, and I just think we've got more danger if we're playing wingers. So I'd like to see us play a 4-5-1 and that sort of situation with either or like a 4-3-3, depending on how you look at it. And then you can get the best out of Fraser, out of Saint-Maximin, out of Almiron. I just don't. I also, just on that point, I don't think anyone. I think all the players deserve a clean slate, and dare I say, even Joe Linton and players like that. I don't want to judge anyone who I've only ever seen play under Steve Bruce, because I just don't think that's fair. And now I still think there's an 85% chance that Joe Linton isn't good enough, but there's a small chance that if he's given the right management, if he's given the right instruction, he might be a very, very different player. They all might be. I was thinking about this today. I was like, a lot of people were comparing his role when he was playing in Germany to the role that Bobby Firmino played before he moved to Liverpool. Like, if Firmino was playing under Bruce, do you think he would have been half the football? He would have been nothing. Like, what would Bruce do with Firmino? You know what I mean? I'm not comparing Joe Linton and Firmino directly, but I'm just saying I think even Joe Linton deserves a chance. If Eddie Howe does line up the exact same way, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt for about 10 minutes, and I'd see how he played. I really hope he won't. I don't think he will. But yeah, he'd get the benefit of the doubt briefly, and I think he'd see quite quickly, like we all have recently, that it doesn't work. That formation doesn't work.
Yeah. Now, as you mentioned that there might be a good player in Joe Linton. Now, of course, it was reported that under Benitez, he was scouted for about even less than half the money that we actually paid for him in the end. And Benitez probably would have made him a half-decent player as well. And so do you think, Adam, that it is a case of different coaching styles and different managers having both a positive or a negative impact on players? Because, for example, we look at the defenders and how they've changed. We look at Sean Longstaff, for example. He was a really good player under Rafa Benitez. Has been pretty much awful under Steve, at least for the last year or so, under Steve Bruce. And so could a positive impact in terms of managerial change improve players and get these players back to their best?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think we could all pick, a handful of players who've gone backwards since the days of Benitez. Longstaff, Lascelles, even Shaw. He looked like an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender back in the Benitez days, and he's really sort of dropped off. And I think, but the way that Howe might manage the players as well could get the best out of them. For example, we saw under Bruce, like players banished almost, thrown in against like top opposition, dropped again. All that kind of chopping and changing. So it'll be interesting to see the way that he sort of manages the players to get the best out of them. Hopefully that's done. That's done very differently. And I wouldn't mind just going what we were saying before about the formation, the way we set up, giving our attacking players a real good couple of games, getting them confidence. We're looking forward to seeing what you can get out of Fraser. Or Wee Man, as he called him on the Bournemouth video. He seems to have a good relationship with him. Fraser's never really kicked on since we signed him. Give him a good run of games in the squad. Bring Gale back in. See what he can do. Give him an opportunity. To get him behind with his pace, put teams under pressure, and really sort of get us set up to have a real good go. Particularly when we're playing at home. Particularly when we're playing against teams we should be beating. Newly promoted sides, mid-table sides, have set us up to have a good attacking go at these teams. So yeah, I'm hoping Howe can. We saw it today on the footage. It seemed to be a positive sort of step in the air at the training ground. Can bring sort of positivity out of the players, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I fully agree. And so I'll move back to sort of Lee's question. I'll ask both of you this: what do you think that lineup against Brentford will look like in a couple of weeks' time? I'll go with you first, Ed.
I Again, very hard to say. I'd like to see Dubravka in goal. He's the best goalkeeper. I don't know why we don't play our best goalkeeper when he's fit. Makes no sense to me. So Dubravka in goal. I'd love to see Jamal Lewis play at left back. He's a bit of an unknown quantity still. So many of our players are unknown quantities because I'm like, oh, something must be wrong with Fede Fernandez. He must be training terribly. But then it's, or has he just been out of favour? It's so hard to say. But again, he's our best centre back at the club. So I'd like to see Fernandez and then either Lascelles or Shah, depending on probably Shah because we're playing Brentford, so he's a bit more attacking. Although Lascelles, if he's more comfortable in a pair, and then having Manquillo at right back, I think he's in a time of inconsistency and turmoil, he's been sort of a relatively consistent player. Again, a three-man midfield. I like to see Willock, Hayden, and then either Shelby or Longstaff. Possibly Shelby. I mean, I'm not John Joe Shelby's biggest fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he gives us a dimension that no one else does. And then attacking three of Wilson, ASM, and Almiron, because those three players, if they're playing in the right positions and on form, would get into most bottom half Premier League teams, if not all bottom half Premier League teams. They're dangerous players and they are threatening players, and it's just about giving them the confidence. So yeah, I'd say a 4-3-3 or a 4-5-1, depending if we're in and out of possession. I'd be a bit worried about Lewis being exposed at left back, so we'll see. But Brentford, they're it's the perfect opposition for us right now. They're on the decline, and now's the time for Eddie Howe to sort of make his mark, make a stamp, make a statement, be bold, bring some players in, drop some players, make your point. He's the boss now, and I'd like to see him be bold like that.
And Adam, your thoughts on the potential starting 11?
Yeah, I think I'd like to go with Dubravka. I think purely because you just got to sort of pick your best players to start. I think he's a more confident goalkeeper. I've noticed with Darlow recently, his distribution's been quite poor, kicking the ball out on the full, not giving us opportunity to keep possession. So Dubravka in there, and then get rid of the five at the back, go forward at the back, get Lewis in there, give him his opportunity to shine. Fernandez back. I prefer probably Lascelles. I think it's perhaps that sort of leadership qualities that he brings. Manquillo right back. I'd quite like to see sort of the two sitting midfielders, maybe Longstaff and Hayden there, and then maybe just trying and get four attacking players on the pitch in and around, sort of say Maximan, to give him that support when he does get the ball. So maybe ASM behind Wilson, and then Almiron and Fraser either side possibly, and see how that works. But yeah, I think it's just an opportunity to change the mentality and just get attacking players on the pitch, get us high up the pitch as well. And that was the main problem under Bruce, just that sort of continuity of possession, transfer of possession up at the sort of the top end of the pitch. We sort of hoofed, as we said earlier on, hoofed at ASM, hope for the best. If when he lost the ball, there was no one else in and around it to sort of mop it up. So I think, go with that and just try and put teams under pressure from the off.
Yeah, no. Ed, you want to come in?
Yeah, I just want to jump in actually. Thinking about it now, I wonder if there's an argument even for playing Matt Ritchie sort of wide left in an attacking role, so that he obviously knows how he's going to know the system better than others. And also he's been playing left wing back also. If we got Lewis at left back, to have Ritchie just in front of him, it might be an idea just to have someone who's not going to hold his hand, but at least be there for Lewis to sort of say, maybe that makes sense because he's got some, we want Lewis to bomb forward. Ritchie's obviously going to be happy to track back. So I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, Matt Ritchie is our best left winger. In fact, far from it, but it might make sense just to play him in that role if we're going to bring Lewis in, because just to say again, it is throwing him in the deep end a little bit, having played no football, club football since before the summer, at least not started any matches anyway. I think he's come as a sub maybe once or twice. I think it's funny, like you're looking at the whole team again, and every single play, it looks like you suddenly see different options, because we're so used to thinking, Maximan's just going to chase it down and he's going to get tired, and Miggy's got nowhere to play really, and Fraser's going to be a centre midfielder, which he can't do. All of a sudden, these exact same players, you start to think, actually, he can play there, and Ritchie can play wide left, and Miggy can play on the right, and we've got a whole new squad of players, hopefully, who are going to be not just sort of playing in their best positions and fine-tuned to better footballers, but also hopefully chomping at the bit to be part of this new Newcastle United and be part of this journey we're going on together, and they'll all want to be part of that, I hope. And the ones who don't want to be, then we can get shipped off in January anyway.
Yeah, very, very true. So I think we're going to sort of wrap things up a little bit now. We've done 25 minutes already. That's already flown by. As I did mention, it was going to be quite brief, but I'll ask you both one more question, which is quite a big one. Will Eddie Howe keep us up? Adam, you first. Yes or no?
I think so. I'm confident. I think he'll just be like a new lease of life to the players. He'll talk about the players confidently. He'll talk about the club confidently. He'll give the fan base a huge boost. The atmosphere in that first match, the Brentford match, will be electric. If we can get a couple of good results before Christmas, I think we should have enough, and then we should be able a few new faces in January as well. Also the squad, and sort of perhaps kick on from there. So yeah, I'm confident we'll stay with. Yeah.
Very good. And Ed?
Yeah, I am confident. And what's more than that, I think now that we know there's a long-term plan in place, not just with Eddie Howe, but with the ownership, I think the fans, myself included, are going to be a lot more forgiving if there is a poor performance or a defeat, because we know that that's going to go away and get analysed and get improved upon. Whereas even if we won under Steve Bruce and Mike Ashley, everyone was sort of thinking, well, that was nice while it lasted, but we'll probably be shit again next week because, it's Newcastle United. It was Mike Ashley's Newcastle United. It was Steve Bruce's Newcastle United. There was no journey. There was no consistency. It was like, if we put in a good performance, great. It's kind of a one-off. Now, more than anything else, you get the idea. There's a structure. There's a plan. There's going to be, dips in the road. There's going to be, peaks and troughs. But I don't mind that now because I'm invested in Eddie Howe because he looks like someone who wants to achieve and has a long-term plan and is meticulous. Same with the ownership. They've got a long-term plan. They've got desire. They want to be there. They want to own a football club. So, there's something that fans can get behind because previously we were getting behind it. There was no ambition. There was no plan. There was no investment. There was nothing. It was just a hollow husk of a club. Now, I think, that sort of rally. So even if we do go down, I don't think we will. I'll be like, okay, let's just. I know the word process is getting bandied around. I have faith in the process. I'm going to trust this process. I'm very, very excited to see where it takes us, not just this season, but beyond that as well.
Yeah, I have to say I agree, and I do have the faith that he will keep us up as well. I think obviously we mentioned before that no club apart from Derby has ever been in this position and got out of it. But no other club has also had many millions to spend in the January transfer window like we have, which I think does make a bit of a difference. But that wraps things up for quite a short and sweet writer's block. Thank you to Ed and to Adam for coming on tonight. We've got a special show next week, though, with a very special guest, which we will announce in the coming days. So do keep tuned for that one. But that is all. Remember, if you do want to be part of True Faith, as mentioned at the start, head to @TFNUFC on Instagram and Twitter, and also check the Facebook page or the website, which you'll find. I don't know what the exact URL is for it, but I'm sure someone will have it somewhere on one of the social medias. But anyway, that is all. So thank you all very much for watching. Lads, thank you for joining me.
Cheers.
Dan.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week with a special guest. So see you then, and goodbye.